Hiya, good morning everybody.
Morning.
My name is Terence Clark.
And I'm Rachel Clark.
It's very nice to be with you this morning. Luke has asked a few people to do the Sunday morning meetings over these next few weeks when we've got holidays and what have you. And the idea is for us to tell you a little bit about our lives, perhaps our testimony, where we're coming from, that type of thing. And this morning, it's me and Rachel's turn. Rachel and I's turn, should I say. Sorry, Mum. Okay, I'm going to go first. And my testimony, I did give my testimony on the 23rd of July in our devotions thing. So I'm not going to go through that again. If you're desperate to find out how I became a Christian, then please take a look at that. It's on the 23rd of July, you'll find it. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how Rachel and I met. It's a long time ago. We've been married 26 years this year. 25 years in August the 26th. That's where I got the 26th from. And so it's a long time. But basically, as you remember from my testimony, if you've seen it, when I was deciding to become a Christian or to return to God, really, I went through a phase where I visited other churches and things like that. And I went away to a youth camp with a friend of mine, John Parker. I just stayed there a couple of days, really, and I met a girl there called Wendy Williamson. Now she was called Wendy James then. And Wendy was great. You know, we were just friends for a couple of days, and then that was that. Didn't see her again. And then a year later, by this time I had become a Christian. Our church used to go to a conference, big annual conference for the Assemblies of God, and this was held in places like Butlins and Pontins and places like that. Now Rachel, as you can tell by her accent, and certainly if you've not heard her speak, when you hear her speaking a bit, you'll know she's not a Yorkshire lass. It's not like what I is. And so Rachel's from a place called Stoke-on-Trent. So people do sometimes say to me, well, how did you meet? Well, Rachel and I met in Pontins at Prestatyn, would you believe? Now, the odd thing about this is this. You know, God has got a plan for our lives. I genuinely believe that. Sometimes it's hard to negotiate our way through life, and sometimes things happen around us, and then you can see God's hand in it. Throughout my life, there's been certain events which I suppose you could call coincidences. I've got a friend who used to call them Godcidences, which I could say, you know what? Yeah, God sorted that out. And meeting Rachel, definitely one of those Godcidences, where a sequence of events happened that could not have been engineered. So I met Wendy the previous year, wasn't a Christian. Then the year after, our church went to this camp, and it was in Prestatyn at Pontins. Now, our church didn't go, actually. Our pastor, a chap called Ian Somerville, went with his wife Morag, and they'd rented a chalet. So 6 or 7 fellas went across, and we would have stayed one night, a Saturday night, sleeping on their floor. A shout out to Ian Morag for that, to be honest, because there's no way that I'd want 7 or 8 blokes sleeping on my floor in my chalet for the first night of my holiday if I were them. And maybe I was 23, you don't think you don't think these things through, but nevertheless appreciate that looking back. So we went there. We went to the main meeting. Jonathan Ashwood, which is Frida and Charles' son, and I. John was like my best friend, so we went to the main hall, and there's thousands of people in this hall. And we walk in, and immediately I see Wendy, and I'm like, "Hi, Wendy." We get chatting, and so she said, "Well, if you want to come back to our chalet for a cup of coffee after the meeting, come back." And so we went back. So Jonathan and I walked to their chalet after the meeting, 10, 11 o'clock or whatever it was. And I'm not sure that I believe in love at first sight, to be honest. I don't know what I think about that. But I walked in this room, and genuinely, I only had eyes for Rachel. It was, looking back at it, I must have looked a bit, a bit of a shadow or something. So we chatted, and I had my proper flirting hat on, you know what I mean? I was...
Yeah, you did.
And then sometime in the early hours, like 1 or 2 o'clock, when everyone had gone to bed, apart from me and Rachel and Jonathan and somebody that he was speaking to and having to speak to him, I asked Rachel if she wanted to go out for a date, and she said yes. And we went to Alton Towers on our first date, and ultimately ended up, staying together and getting married. You know what? There's so many places that could have fallen down. The chances of Rachel and I meeting are low. Meeting at all are very low. Plus, then you've got a situation where, in that room, there was a lot of people in that room. It wasn't easy to walk around. It was, I had to be quite determined to get close to her. And, I do genuinely believe there's certain situations in your life when you can say, God had a hand in that. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for welfare, not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." And I am very grateful for that moment where I met Rachel, because, she is, she's great. We are clearly a good couple. We really are. And I'm pleased, very pleased that coincidence happened. So that's how we met. And 25 years, will be my 25 years now in another few days. 26th of August will be my 25 years. So, it's not a bad spell. So now I'm going to pass over to Rachel.
So when we were looking at what to talk about this morning, there are so many things that you can talk about. But I thought that I would just very briefly tell you my testimony. And it's really funny, I was thinking about this earlier on today, that when I was growing up, I always thought I didn't really have a testimony. I didn't really have a very interesting testimony. When you saw people stand up at the front of the church and say what they'd been saved from. But you know what? Everybody has a testimony. So mine is, I was brought up in a Christian family. My dad became a pastor when I was about 4 years of age in a place called Kidsgrove in Stoke-on-Trent. And I really do thank God for Christian parents. I thank God for godly parents that brought me up in the way that I should go. That's not to say it was always easy, and I completely agreed with everything that Mum and Dad said and did, and I didn't want my own way a lot of the time, but I really do thank God for having godly parents. So I became a Christian when I was 10 years of age, and there's a scripture in the Bible that I absolutely believe in, Proverbs 22 verse 6, which is, "Start a child off in the way that they should go, and even when they are old, they'll not turn from it." And I absolutely believe that. And for parents that are listening this morning, you just don't know the seeds that get sown in your child's life, and they watch and observe everything that you do. And that was the story of me, really. But I have to say that life is a journey, and we'll share some things in a minute which took us off in a slightly different direction. And there have been ups and downs and different situations that have happened in both of our lives. But one thing that has been constant is God has been closer than a brother.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm passing back to you now.
Hello. Okay, Rachel's just wandered off for a bit. We thought it'd be better if we did a bit of shuffling around so that we weren't sort of sat there waiting for the other one to finish. So the next bit is this bit, and this is where, Rachel and I, when we were asked to do this, we have to give some thought as to the substance and to the content of what we're going to cover. Now, we were like, well, how intimate do we want this to be? How much do we want to discuss the difficult things in terms of this exposure? Now, it's one thing if it's at church, you can see the people in front of you, you can gauge their reaction, and you know what's going on. But this is a bit different, and to be honest, I've done a lot of these devotions now, and some of them are not easy to do because there's no comeback naturally, and there's even less comeback on this because it's actually a recording. But we decided that we were going to share a part of our journey which isn't particularly easy, and that is the fact that we've not been able to have children. That's something that is probably known to the majority of people watching this from our church, but maybe not. We make judgments, don't we, about people? It's inevitable. You look at a couple and they've not had kids and they're in their 50s, and you're like, well, what's going on there then? Are they just selfish people that don't want children, or are they sad people and depressed because they couldn't have kids? I don't know what you think. We have tried hard not to be defined by the fact that we have not been able to have kids, and I think that's generally okay. I think we do all right. We might be a bit weird, but I don't think we're that weird. I think we're no more weird than what we would have been if we'd had kids, to be honest. So what happened? Well, when we got married, we had a few roughish years where we didn't really get on very well. About 4 or 5, maybe 6 of them, and we did bicker and argue. But during that time, we were 30. We were 26 when we got married. When we got to 30, it became the obvious thing for us to think about is having kids. So we started trying for children. And of course, you sort of expect that's going to be straightforward, that you're going to find it easy and get pregnant, and that's what everybody does, and so on and so forth. Well, obviously for us, it wasn't easy, and we were unable to get pregnant. And, you know, a couple of years go by, and then you start to think, well, we really need to go and see a GP, so you go and see your doctor, and then you go and see a consultant, and then you have various different operations and procedures in order to try and establish what the situation is and what's wrong. And then you go to assisted conception, which is a different organisation altogether, and they do other, interviews and meetings and what have you, and it's time consuming, and it's intimate, and it's not very nice. Ultimately, we did IVF. Well, we did various routes actually, but ultimately the worst bit was IVF, which we did 3 times. I say the worst. I mean, if someone watching this is going to be about to embark on IVF, don't be put off by our experience, because we didn't get pregnant, and I think if we got pregnant, I think it would have all faded away. But it wasn't very nice. You know, for us it was time consuming, it was emotional, it was painful, it was intimate, it was expensive, and of course at the end of it, it was nothing. All we had was disappointment, and I think that as Christians, we don't opt out of life. We don't opt out of what life's all about. We are part of life. We connect with life just like everybody else does, and we face the same challenges. I think there's times when I've thought about God as some type of friendly big brother who will always sort it out for me if I pray about it. Lord God, can I have a parking space? Or Lord God, can I have a wage rise? Or whatever it might be. God is not a kindly big brother. He is God. And you know, his ways are not our ways. We don't always know what's going on in our lives. I said earlier on about the God-centeredness of meeting Rachel, and I absolutely believe that. I believe God is divine and orchestrates situations. And I don't know why some prayers are met and some prayers are not. But I also recognise that part of our journey of that Rachel and I have been on has made us who we are. And it may be that this dialogue we're having now is helping somebody else in the journey that they're going through. Anyway, that's the third bit. That's just a bit about our lives, about a period of time that took about 12 years to we're in our early 40s, and then we decided, you know what, it's not going to happen this. We're not doing IVF again. And obviously we started life in a different mindset. So now I'm going to pass you back to Rachel to conclude.
So I'm going to finish off this session, but I'm just going to pick back up on something that Terence has just said. So what happens when life doesn't work out either the way you'd planned or imagined it in your head? I had a dream, like a lot of girls have dreams, that I'd meet my Prince Charming, and we'd live happily ever after. We'd have 2 children. I would work part-time. At the time when I was 30, I was working in retail, wasn't particularly career-driven, and I really just wanted a family, really just wanted to have a child and be like my friends, really. But then never for 1 minute did I consider that I wouldn't be able to have any children. And as a woman, I thought that was just my automatic right. And then, for me, the worst thing happened. So we went through the 3rd round of IVF, which was successful, and I miscarried at 11 weeks. And I hit rock bottom, because at that point, I realised I would never hold my own child in my arms. I would never have a child running up to me shouting "mummy." And it felt like I'd never get over it. All of my dreams and everything I started to grieve for, because they were all tied up in the same thing. And this morning, while you're listening to me, you may not be going through the situation I went through or be anywhere near that, but you'll go through a different situation or have been through different situations, because we all go through trouble in life. We all go through situations that knock us for six, that we think, how are we going to actually get through this? That may be a relationship breakdown, it may be an illness, it may be a death, it may be losing your job. It's different for all of us, but there is hope. There absolutely is hope. I haven't got time to go through my whole journey this morning, but I just want to pick up on just a couple of little things before we finish. And that is that life is a journey. And I said in my testimony that one thing is for sure, that God never leaves you. He is always with you. And throughout this whole period of time, God was with me and took me through all sorts of different things. And I felt that there was a number of questions that God asked me. And one of them was, do you trust me? Do you trust that I have a plan for your life, even when your life doesn't work out how you either dreamed it or wanted it to, or even had planned it? Do you trust me that I've got it? I've got it all under control. And my answer at that point was yes. I didn't have anywhere else to go. So it was yes. And I absolutely say that God has given me a grace to deal with not having any children. So you'll see me in church, or you'll see me with friends and family with their babies and with their small children. I absolutely love children. And none of my friends have ever been afraid of telling me they were pregnant or letting me look after their child, because God has given me an absolute grace. And over the last 10 years over the last 10 years, God's also taken me on a journey where I have been to places I never thought I'd go to, where I have been in situations that I could never have imagined, where God has put me in places that I never thought I'd go to. So I would encourage you this morning that whatever you're going through, whether you feel that there's no hope, or you feel that how am I actually ever going to get out of this, cry out to God, because He is there and He will walk every step of the way with you. If you want to talk to somebody at church about anything that you're going through, please give us a call, and somebody will talk you through and help you through the situation that you're going through. And I just wanted to finish my little bit with coming back to the Bible verse that Terence had picked up on in Jeremiah, which says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for good and not for evil, to give you a hope and a future."
So that's Rachel and I. We've done our 20 minutes. I hope that's been of some help to people, and you know a bit more about us anyway, if nothing else. We made decisions to follow Jesus. It's a decision, but it's also a commitment. Anybody can decide something and then change their mind. But this is a lifestyle choice that we have made, and we stick with that through the ups and the downs of life. And through that, Jesus has shown Himself to be real to us over and over again. And like Rachel said earlier on, if you want to talk to somebody about anything, if you want to talk to us about anything we've said, we are an open book. We would love to talk to you. But equally, there might be somebody else that you feel a bit more connected with in our church. Please reach out to them. They'd love to talk to you as well. So that's good night from me.
And have a really good rest of the day Sunday, and be encouraged.
See you later. Bye bye.